This video will help you with your assignment for 2.07 Graphing Rational Functions. Now this one is not a multiple choice assignment. It actually is one that you will have to do by hand or on the computer to submit and upload. So you're going to be given two different rational functions in which you're going to need to both graph and analyze. So one of the quickest and easiest, absolute easiest ways is to do it with a graphing calculator. So you may have a TI-84 or something else like it. So what I've done is I've used Desmos, D-E-S-M-O-S, Desmos, D-E-S-M-O-S. It's just a web version. I'll pull it over here so you can see what I'm looking at, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. This is what I use. I simply just typed it in here and it gave me the graph. And I'm just actually going to go ahead and copy that graph and paste it up here so that we can actually use it to analyze it and get all the information that we need from it. So let me go ahead and paste that here. And voila, we've got our graph that we're working with. So let's look at all the different parts of the graph that we need to look at. First, this is what is the domain? So let's take a look at the domain. Remember, you're looking at your domain versus your range. You're looking at where it basically the x values do occur and something happens there. So remember that technically, if you're looking at your vertical asymptotes, which kind of occur right in here roughly, I'm a horrible drawer, but all right, I got some vertical asymptotes here. So that would be where my domain does not exist. So we know we generally start the rule with all real numbers. I'm a horrible writer on this too, but all real numbers. But we've got some exceptions. We can say except. Okay, where is that? So we can look at the graph and kind of guesstimate and go a little further, or we can take our denominator and figure out what that actually is. So if I factor that, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be -6 and add to be -4. And those two numbers do not exist. So I made this one up, so I don't have any two numbers. It's not factorable. So I would use my quadratic formula at that point to see what my zeros were. And when I say zeros, of course, I'm referring to the zeros of this trinomial in the denominator. So in this case, it was about 5.16. Not use the bracket there, or the parentheses, so 5.16 and -1.16. Now yours won't have these crazy decimals. I just made these up to be similar, but that's the same process you would use. You would see if you can either factor it or use quadratic formula to figure out what could not be in the denominator. Luckily, we know that these are also the vertical asymptotes, so 5.16 and -1.16. If you can identify the domain, you can also identify the vertical asymptote. The horizontal asymptote, remember we can go with the rules we did in the last video or the last lesson if you didn't watch the video. I have a basically x to the 0 power up here, so that's going to be smaller than that. So that means the horizontal asymptote is 0. My y-intercept is where it's going to cross the y-axis. So where does it cross the y-axis? Let's see, here it would be, just look at your graph and tell, and again, because I made this up, it's going to be a little tougher. My y-intercept, it's about -2/3. I had to zoom into the graph and double check. So here is like 1, 2, or -1, -2, and so forth. So it's about -2/3. Then your x-intercepts are where it crosses the x-axis. Well, if it has a horizontal asymptote of 0, it's going to basically be approaching 0 here, coming down, but it doesn't actually touch. So there is none here. No x-intercept. Now, my range on this one is going to be very tricky, so I'm not going to get into the minutia details because I gave myself a bad problem to work with. Or not bad problem, just more complicated and more crazy numbers are going to be involved. But your range is going to be pretty much anything going greater than here, anything within here, so it's going to be less than this, and anything within here. So when you're looking at your graph, your range are going to be pretty much all those things. There's going to be kind of 3 parts to it. It's going to be part 1, part 2, and part 3. So make sure you list all 3 parts in your actual answer on your sheet. So although the numbers are a little bit crazy, I hope this helps you with just very quickly figuring out what to do on this assignment, how to find your domain, range, x-intercepts, y-intercepts, your horizontal, and your vertical asymptote. You can either print this assignment out, do it by hand, scan it, and send it in, or you can complete it over the computer, but most people choose the print, scan, and send method. If you have any questions, reach out, and good luck on this.